So if you could just tell me who you work for, how long you've been there, and your title.
Okay. Yeah, I work for John Zink Company. I'm an engineering manager here, and I've been here since January of 2013, so a little past 7 years.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So could you describe, how do you spend a typical day? What's your daily kind of?
It's changed a little bit during the pandemic, and even after the pandemic, we do more online and meetings like this, video meetings. It's probably, some days I have lots of meetings on projects and like administrative issues. I review lots of reports, and then I do, we have a team, in my group is a team of, I think I have 7 direct reports. So, just interacting with those guys and supporting them as they're doing their project work and that sort of thing. And I'm planning R&D efforts and other types of capability development stuff that we're doing. So some kind of those initiatives. That's probably typical days, working on that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. What do you think the most important things that a manager does are?
The key responsibility, I think, is selecting and developing the employees in the group. Everything else kind of takes second place to that. But those are the key things: is empowering people to be successful, I think. And
Okay.
there's a lot of ways that happens, but yeah, those are the key. In broad buckets, I think those are the big ones.
Okay, so tell me a couple ways that you feel like you do empower people as their leader.
Well, I put the expectation on people to make decisions. In my role, I hire a lot of, you hear the term used, knowledge workers, but I hire a lot of, just the work we do, we hire a lot of people that are really, really smart people. And, you want to get the best out. There's certainly, in a lot of cases, they know more than I do about a particular, issue that they're working on. That's pretty typical. So I can't really be the decision maker in some cases. I can help, but I can't really be the decision maker. So I have to empower people to make decisions. I have to expect they make decisions, an expectation. So there's that. And then you're just making sure they have the tools they need to do their job. We do a lot of computer type of work on a lot of computing systems. So making sure we have the software and computing tools that we need. But I'd say that's the main thing, is making sure that people feel empowered and in fact responsible to make decisions on their own, and then make sure they have the tools they need to do their jobs, and training, that sort of thing. There's other things that go along with that, but those are the big ones in my view.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So what kind of personality traits do you think someone in your position, and we're kind of using the word leader and manager interchangeably here, but
Okay.
for your role, what kind of personality traits do you think are important?
It's interesting. I did what's called the interpersonal leadership style assessment. I think Chris may have told you, but I'm on the board for Leadership Tulsa, and we did our board activity. We had everybody do the interpersonal leadership styles. They put us all into 4 categories, like counselor, persuader, I can't remember the other one, and then director. And the interesting thing was, they talked about how companies need all of these different personality styles to be effective. You might think, well, this personality style is the one you want in upper management, and this is the one, but you'd be wrong. You need all of these different personality styles at all levels of an organization. So I guess I'm not sure I have a good answer for that question of, so what personality. I'm not really an expert on personality traits, for one reason, and I think you need all of them.
Yeah.
Not one person can't have all of these traits. I'm not saying that. You got to find somebody that has all those traits, but just organizations need people with, like I said, the counselor, the persuader, the director. I wish I could remember the other one, but anyway, it's called ILS, interpersonal leader. And there's other ones, there's Gallup Strength Finders, and there's these other personality tests people take, and I don't know that much about them, but anyway, they made the interesting comment that you need all of them. You need all these different personality types at different levels in the organization to be successful.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So let's talk just a little bit about corporate culture there. What kind of culture do you aim to promote? And how do you do that?
One of the key things that we're trying to promote is is a challenge culture. And so that's where every employee So a couple of things. I mean, I'll start with challenge. Challenge is a key thing. Every employee feels empowered and again, responsible to challenge bad ideas or ideas that don't sound very good. You know, and there's no retaliation, you know, a no retaliation culture. If somebody challenges something in good faith, you know, there's no retaliation. That's important. So a challenge culture is one, and then a knowledge sharing culture is another one where, you know, we seek out and share the best knowledge that we have. You know, we share the knowledge that we have, and then we seek out the best knowledge to make decisions, whether it's inside our organization or outside our organization. I would say that's kind of the culture we're trying to. And there's other factors. Those are the big ones in my mind, you know, as to what we're trying to do.
Cool.
Hopefully we're doing it.
Yeah, that's great. Getting back to the management, what do you think your biggest challenge is when it comes to people management?
You know, I mean, I have a lot of shortcomings. Me personally, I'm not very much of a risk taker. I have a low appetite for risk. That's a problem for me as a person. I've been aware of it for a long time and haven't really made much headway in fixing it. And I'm also probably not as good at setting and metrics for people. You know, here's how we're going to measure the performance this year, and following up on it. I mean, I'm just not very good at that. Actually, I wish I was better.
What do you mean by risk taking? What would be an example of that in your role?
Well, my roles changed a little bit. We used to be part of the R&D group, and so like my boss, he started up this smart combustion initiative, and it's honestly, it's not really been success. They've been doing it a couple of years, and they really haven't had much. They've had a little bit of success, not much success, you know, in the ways you measure businesses. So it's really a high risk initiative, and he kind of, you know, he was willing to just stop what he was doing and jump into that with both feet. So that's an example of risk taking that I would have a hard time with.
Okay, the sort of the directions.
Yeah.
Okay, now you talked a little bit about how you motivate your team with providing their needs and giving them the flexibility and freedom. Do you ever have conflict? How do you manage conflict if it ever comes up at the office? Is that a thing?
Yeah, occasionally it is. You know, we try to hit it head on as much as we can, and just, I don't have a real good answer. You know, I mean, there is kind of probably maybe some, we don't have a lot of that in my group, but I think the answer is just to, you know, hit it head on and talk about it and try to get it resolved and come up with a compromise that everybody can live with. You know, fortunately, we don't have a lot of that to deal with, but I mean, it does happen, and yeah, we just try to make sure we're talking about it and addressing it rather than ignoring it.
Yeah, and then how do you handle an underperforming member of your team?
Well, you know, I guess, you know, we try to make sure that they, you know, figure out the reason for that they're not doing well, and, you know, give them the training and the resources that they need to be better. You know, and just, you know, and we put them on performance improvement. I mean, that's it. So at this company, if you're on a performance, that's kind of a negative thing, actually. Well, you know, I guess probably anywhere, but, you know, the performance improvement efforts, you know, that's kind of not a good place to be. But anyway, that's what we do. You know, we try to get them on a program where we think we're gonna find out if they can improve their performance to the level it needs to be or not.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not fun. Not fun
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I've been down that road too. Okay, so here's another question. How do you assess the strengths in your team? And then how would you act on that knowledge?
Well, you know, obviously there's observations, you know, you observe people and you work with people and you kind of find their strengths. But with the annual review process, we do a supervisor assessment. I do an assessment of people where, you know, I sit down and I try to take notes during the year. I don't do as good as I should, but take notes on performance, you know, notable things. And then once a year we do a performance review where I write up an assessment, they write up a self-assessment, our company policy. And then we also do a little bit of what's called a 360 review, where we're trying to go, you know, to peers and people that are maybe above them on the org chart and below them on the org chart, just to kind of find out, get some third-party feedback on their performance and kind of try to identify, you know, their strengths that way. Okay. I would say.
Here's a question. How would you describe your relationship with your superiors and your subordinates? How would you describe that?
You know, I think, I mean, it's pretty open in the sense that, you know, I always feel like I can say whatever's on my mind to my superiors and to my subordinates. I would probably say not real, you know, we're not like personal best friends or anything. I'm not, you know, not real personal type relationship that I have with anybody here at work, really. Well, a few people, but not in our direct, you know, org chart section. But yeah, it's just, I would characterize it open, you know, open communication and, you know, and mutual respect, I guess.
Okay, cool. All right. What kind are you reading, or what types of things are you consuming to become a better leader, better manager?
I don't read as much as I used to. But I have been reading a little bit of our company. You know, Charles Koch writes books, and so I've been reading some of his stuff. He's actually kind of, you know, got his own set of influences that are, you know, politically kind of libertarian. But anyway, a lot about how the role of business, how businesses contribute to society. I did that. Chris told you I did that MBA program. There was a guy in there who was, I mean, there really some good people in there I met, and he would always say, and I never really understood it, but he would always say that the business of business is people. That was his saying. And I didn't really understand it at the time, but, you know, as I've gotten older, I've realized how much more, how much I found that to be true. And anyway, so Charles Koch, though, his books talk a lot about how businesses contribute to society and, you know, how societies need businesses to function, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Other stuff too, you know, about how to be successful, you know, how to make a transaction that benefits both the seller and the buyer, and, you know, is not, you know, got the government twisting anybody's arm to do the transaction, that kind of thing. That's what he believes in. So anyway, yeah, that's I've been reading that, and that's probably the main thing I've been reading recently. And
cool.
You know, podcast. Everybody watches podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to read that book. That sounds interesting. Okay, last question. What kind of advice would you give yourself? Imagine yourself 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There was something that you could have done to better prepare you for what you're doing, to be better at what you're doing. What would you say?
You know, so this I told you I've been doing. I did the Leadership Tulsa course. I mean, the MBA was good. That was definitely, I did that one though, so I can't say, you know, that was actually a good decision. It was good for me. It developed a lot of skills that I didn't have at the time. I did that when I was in my early 30s, I think. That was a good decision. Leadership Tulsa, you know, runs these cohort leadership development programs. I think that's, you know, getting into that kind of thing. I didn't have enough appreciation for some of the softer skills that you need in business. So I think getting into like these leadership programs and cohort training programs earlier would have been, you know, a good skill for me that would have been good advice for me to have.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's really great. Well, you know, Mike, thank you so much for your time. And
Interesting.
you know, I hope the rest of